The book of Yoveliym, Jubilees, chapter 7. And in the 7th week, in the 1st year thereof, in this Jubilee, Noach planted vines on the mountain on which the ark had rested, named Lubar, one of the Ararat mountains, and they produced fruit in the 4th year. And he did guard their fruit, and gathered it in this year, in the 7th month. And he made wine therefrom, and put it into a vessel, and kept it until the 5th year, until the 1st day, on the new moon of the 1st month. And he celebrated with joy the day of this feast. And he made an ascending smoke sacrifice unto Yahweh, 1 young ox and 1 ram, and 7 sheep, each a year old, and a kid of the goats, that he might make atonement thereby for himself and his sons. And he prepared the kid first, and placed some of its blood on the flesh that was on the altar, which he had made, and all the fat he laid on the altar, where he made the ascending smoke sacrifice, and the ox and the ram and the sheep, and he laid all their flesh upon the altar, and he placed all their offerings mingled with oil upon it, and afterwards he sprinkled wine on the fire, which he had previously made on the altar, and he placed incense on the altar, and caused a sweet savor to ascend, acceptable before Yahweh, Alanayu. And he rejoiced and drank of this wine, he and his children, with joy. And it was evening, and he went into his tent, and being drunken, he lay down and slept, and was uncovered in his tent as he slept. And Cham saw Noach his father naked, and went forth and told his 2 brethren without. And Shem took his garment and arose, he and Japheth, and they placed the garment on their shoulders, and went backward, and covered the shame of their father, and their faces were backward. And Noach awoke from his sleep, and knew all that his younger son had done unto him. And he cursed his son, and said, Cursed be Canaan, an enslaved servant shall he be unto his brethren. And he blessed Shem, and said, Blessed be Yahweh, Elohim of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Elohim shall enlarge Japheth, and Elohim shall dwell in the dwelling of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And Shem knew that his father had cursed his younger son, and he was displeased that he had cursed his son, and he parted from his father, he and his sons with him, Cush and Mitzrayim, and Put and Canaan. And he built for himself a city, and called its name after the name of his woman, Nielamatuk. And Japheth saw it, and became envious of his brother. And he too built for himself a city, and he called its name after the name of his woman, Adat-Teneses. And Shem dwelt with his father Noach, and he built a city close to his father on the mountain, and he too called its name after the name of his woman, Sedequel Elantov. And behold, these 3 cities are near Mount Lubar, Sedequelinstav, fronting the mountain on its east, and Naatelamatuk on the south, Ateneses toward the west. And these are the sons of Shem, Elam, and Ashur, and Arphaxad. this son was born 2 years after the flood, and Ludi and Aram, the sons of Japheth, Gimmer, and Magog, and Madai, and Yavan, Tubal, and Meshech, and Thirach. These are the sons of Noach. And in the 28th Jubilee, Noach began to enjoin upon his sons the ordinances and commandments and all the judgments that he knew. And he exhorted his sons to observe righteousness and to cover the shame of their flesh and to bless their Creator and honor father and mother and love their neighbor and guard their beings from fornication and uncleanness and all iniquity. For owing to these 3 things came the flood upon the earth, namely, owing to the fornication wherein the watchers against the Torah of their ordinances went a-whoring after the daughters of men, and took themselves women of all which they chose, and they made the beginning of uncleanness. And they begat sons, the Nephilim, and they were all alike. They were all unlike, and they devoured one another. And the Nephilim slew the Nephil, and the Nephil slew the Elo, and the Elo mankind, and one man another. And everyone sold himself to work iniquity and to shed much blood, and the earth was filled with iniquity. And after this they sinned against the beasts and birds, and all that moves and walks on the earth. And much blood was shed on the earth, and every imagination and desire of men imagined vanity and evil continually. And Yahweh destroyed everything from off the face of the earth, because of the wickedness of their deeds, and because of the blood which they had shed in the midst of the earth. He destroyed everything. And we were left, I and you, my sons, and everything that entered with us into the ark. And behold, I see your works before me, that you do not walk in righteousness, for in the path of destruction ye have begun to walk. And ye are parting one from another, and are envious of one another. And so it comes that ye are not in harmony, my sons, each with his brother. For I see and behold, the devils have begun their seductions against you and against your children. And now I fear on your behalf that after my death ye will shed the blood of men upon the earth, and that ye too will be destroyed from the face of the earth. For whoso sheds man's blood, and whoso eats the blood of any flesh, shall all be destroyed from the earth. And there shall not be left any man that eats blood, or that sheds the blood of man on the earth, nor shall there be left to him any seed or descendants living under Shamaim. For into Sheol shall they go, and into the place of condemnation shall they descend, and into the darkness of the deep shall they all be removed by a violent death. There shall be no blood seen upon you. Of all the blood there shall be all the days in which ye have killed any beast or cattle or whatsoever flies upon the earth, and work ye a good work to your beings by covering that which has been shed on the face of the earth. And ye shall not be like him who eats with blood, but guard yourselves that none may eat blood before you. Cover the blood For thus I have been commanded to testify to you and to your children together with all flesh. And suffer not the being to be eaten with the flesh, that your blood, which is your life, may not be required at the hand of any flesh that sheds it on the earth. For the earth will not be clean from the blood which has been shed upon it, for only through the blood of him that shed it will the earth be purified throughout all its generations. And now, my children, hearken, work judgment and righteousness, that ye may be planted in righteousness over the face of the whole earth, and your kavod lifted up before my Elohim, who saved me from the waters of the flood. And behold, ye will go and build for yourselves cities, and plant in them all the plants that are upon the earth, and moreover all fruit-bearing trees. For 3 years the fruit of everything that is eaten will not be gathered, and in the 4th year its fruit will be accounted kodesh, and they will offer the first fruits acceptable before Al Elyon, who created Shamayim and earth and all things. Let them offer in abundance the first of the wine and oil as first fruits on the altar of Yahweh, who receives it, and what is left in the servants. And what is left, let the servants of the house of Yahweh eat before the altar which receives it. And in the 5th year make ye the release, so that ye release it in righteousness and uprightness, and ye shall be righteous, and all that you plant shall prosper. For thus did Chanach, the father of your father, command Methuselah his son, and Methuselah his son Lamech, and Lamech commanded me all the things which his fathers commanded him. And I also will give you commandment, my sons, as Chanach commanded his son in the first Jubilees, while still living. The 7th in his generation he commanded and testified to his son and to his sons' sons until the day of his death. Chapter 8. In the 29th Jubilee, in the 1st week, in the beginning thereof, Arpachshad took to himself a woman, and her name was Rasuiah, the daughter of Shushan, the daughter of Elam. And she bore him a son in the 3rd year in this week, and he called his name Canaan. And the son grew, and his father taught him writing, and he went to seek for himself a place where he might seize for himself a city. And he found a writing which former generations had carved on the rock, and he read what was thereon, and he transcribed it, and sinned owing to it. For it contained the teaching of the watchers, in accordance with which they used to observe the omens of the sun and moon and stars, and in all the signs of Shamayim, heaven. And he wrote it down and said nothing regarding it, for he was afraid to speak to Noah about it, lest he should be angry with him on account of it. And in the 30th Jubilee, in the 2nd week, in the 1st year thereof, he took to himself a woman, and her name was Melchah, the daughter of Madai, the son of Japheth. And in the 4th year he begat a son, and called his name Shelah, for he said, Truly I have been sent. And in the 4th year he was born. And Shelah grew up, and took to himself a woman, and her name was Muach, the daughter of Chesed. his father's brother, in the 31st Jubilee, in the 5th week, in the 1st year thereof. And she bore him a son in the 5th year thereof, and he called his name Eber. And he took unto himself a woman, and her name was Azurad, the daughter of Nebrad, in the 32nd Jubilee, in the 7th week, in the 3rd year thereof. And in the 6th year thereof she bore him a son, and he called his name Peleg. For in the days when he was born, the children of Noah began to divide the earth amongst themselves. For this reason he called his name Peleg, and they divided it secretly amongst themselves, and told it to Noah. And it came to pass in the beginning of the 33rd Jubilee that they divided the earth into 3 parts, for Shem and Cham, Ham, and Japheth, according to the inheritance of each. In the 1st year, in the 1st week, when one of us who had been sent was with them. And he called his sons, and they drew nigh to him, they and their children, and he divided the earth into the lots, which his 3 sons were to take possession in. And they reached forth their hands, and took the writing out of the bosom of Noah, their father. And there came forth on the writing as Shem's lot, the middle of the earth, which he should take as an inheritance for himself and for his sons, for the generations of eternity. From the middle of the mountain range of Rapha, from the mouth of the water, from the river Tina, and his portion goes towards the west through the midst of this river, and it extends till it reaches the water of the abysses, out of which this river goes forth, and pours its waters into the sea, Maat. And this river flows into the great sea. And all that is towards the north is Japheth, and all that is towards the Negev belongs to Shem, and it extends till it reaches Caroso. This is in the bosom of the tongue which looks towards the Negev, and his portion extends along the great sea, and it extends in a straight line till it reaches the west of the tongue which looks towards the Negev. For this sea is named the tongue of the Mitzri Sea. And it turns from here towards the Negev, towards the mouth of the great sea, on the shore of its waters. And it extends to the west to Aphra, and it extends till it reaches the waters of the river Gichon, and to the south of the waters of Gichon, to the banks of this river. And it extends toward the east till it reaches the Garden of Eden, to the south thereof, to the south and from the east of the whole land of Eden, and of the whole east. It turns to the east, and proceeds till it reaches the east of the mountain named Rapha, and it descends to the bank of the mouth of the river Tina. This portion came forth by lot for Shem and his sons, that they should possess it forever, unto his generations forevermore. And Noah rejoiced that this portion came forth for Shem and for his sons, and he remembered all that he had spoken with his mouth in prophecy, for he had said, Blessed be Yahweh, Elohim of Shem, and may Yahweh dwell in the dwelling of Shem. And he knew that the Garden of Eden is the Holy of Holies, and the dwelling of Yahweh, and Mount Sinai, the center of the desert, and Mount Sion, the center of the navel of the earth. These three were created as Kodesh, holy places, facing each other. And he blessed the Elohim of Elohim, who had put the word of Yahweh into his mouth, and Yahweh forevermore. And he knew that a blessed portion and a blessing had come to Shem and his sons unto the generations forever, the whole land of Eden, and the whole land of the Red Sea, and the whole land of the east, and India, and on the Red Sea, and the mountains thereof, and all the land of Bashan, and all the land of Lebanon, and the islands of Caphtor, and all the mountains of Senir, and Amana, and the mountains of Ashur in the north, and all the land of Elam, Ashur, and Babel, and Shushan, and Madai, and all the mountains of Ararat, and all the region beyond the sea, which is beyond the mountains of Ashur, towards the north, a blessed and spacious land, and all that is in it is very good. And for Cham came forth the second portion, beyond the Gishon, towards the south, to the right of the garden, and it extends towards the south, and it extends to all the mountains of fire, and it extends towards the west, to the sea of Atel, and it extends towards the west, till it reaches the sea of Maok, that sea into which everything which is not destroyed descends, and it goes forth towards the north, to the limits of Gadir, and it goes forth to the coast of the waters of the sea, to the waters of the great sea, till it draws near to the river Gishon, and goes along the river Gishon, till it reaches the right of the Garden of Eden. And this is the land which came forth for Cham as the portion which he was to occupy forever for himself and his sons unto their generations forever. And for Japheth came forth the third portion beyond the river Tina, to the north of the outflow of its waters, and it extends northeasterly to the whole region of Gog, and to all the country east thereof, and it extends northernly to the north, and it extends to the mountains of Quelt towards the north, and towards the sea of Mauk, and it goes forth to the east of Gadir, as far as the region of the waters of the sea, and it extends until it approaches the west of Farah, and it returns towards Aphrag, and it extends easterly to the waters of the sea of Maat, and it extends to the region of the river Tina in a northeasterly direction until it approaches the boundary of its waters toward the mountain Rapha, and it turns round towards the north. This is the land which came forth for Japheth and his sons as the portion of his inheritance, which he should possess for himself and his sons for their generations forever, 5 great islands, and a great land in the north. But it is cold, and the land of Cham is hot, and the land of Shem is neither hot nor cold, but is of blended cold and heat. Chapter 9. And Cham divided amongst his sons, and the first portion came forth for Cush, towards the east, and to the west of him for Mitzrayim, and to the west of him for Put, and to the west of him, and to the west thereof, on the sea, for Canaan. And Shem also divided amongst his sons, and the first portion came forth for Elam and his sons to the east of the river Chiddekel, till it approaches the east, the whole land of India, and on the Red Sea on its coast, and the waters of Dedan, and all the mountains of Mibri, and Elam, and all the land of Shushan, and all that is on the side of Farnach, to the Red Sea, and the river Tina. And for Ashur came forth the second portion, all the land of Ashur, and Nineveh, and Shinar, and to the border of India, and it ascends and skirts the river. And for Arphaxad came forth the third portion, all the land of the region of the Cadicium, to the east of the Perath, bordering on the Red Sea, and all the waters of the desert, close to the tongue of the sea, which looks towards Mitzrayim, all the land of Lebanon, and Sinir, and Ammana, to the border of the Perath. And for Aram there came forth the fourth portion, all the land of Aram, Naharim, between the Chiddekel and the Perath, to the north of the Cadicium, to the border of the mountains of Ashur, and the land of Ararat. And there came forth for the Ludi the fifth portion, the mountains of Ashur, and all appertaining to them, till it reaches the great sea, until it reaches the east of Ashur, his brother. And Japheth also divided the land of his inheritance amongst his sons, and the first portion came forth for Gomer, to the east, from the north side to the river Tina, and in the north there came forth for Magog all the inner portions of the north, until it reaches to the sea of Maat. And for Madai came forth as his portion, that he should possess from the west of his two brothers to the islands, and to the coasts of the islands. And for Yavan came forth the fourth portion, every island, and the islands which are towards the border of Ludi. And for Tubal there came forth the fifth portion, in the midst of the tongue, which approaches towards the border of the portion of the Ludi, to the second tongue, to the region beyond the second tongue, unto the third tongue. And for Meshech came forth the sixth portion, all the region beyond the third tongue, till it approaches the east of Gadir. And for Thirach there came forth the seventh portion, 4 great islands in the midst of the sea, which reach to the portion of Cham, and the islands of Kamaturi came out by lot for the sons of Arphaxad, and his inheritance. And thus the sons of Noach divided unto their sons in the presence of Noach their father, and he bound them all by an oath, imprecating a curse on every one that sought to seize the portion which had not fallen to him by his lot. And they all said, So be it, so be it, for themselves, and their sons forever, throughout their generations, till the day of judgment, on which Yahweh Elohim shall judge them with a sword and with fire for all the unclean wickedness of their errors, wherewith they have filled the earth with transgression and uncleanness and fornication and sin.